Yeah. So I'd like to welcome you this afternoon to our Building a STEM Nation Through Professional Learning, which I'm delivering today with my colleague Janie Irving. My name's Lynn Yenica, and ordinarily I cover the southeast of Scotland, and Janie is based in the Northern Alliance. However, we are part of the national STEM team, and we're delivering today. We're also joined by a couple of our other colleagues from some of the other regions as well. I know Margaret Craw's here and Jane Hamilton, and I think Ian Menzies is also here. So you're very, very welcome. We've said introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us what you've maybe been doing at the SLF today, if you've managed to attend any sessions. I would just like to remind everybody to turn off your cameras unless you're actually presenting, and probably more importantly, mute your microphones so that we don't have any adverse noise effects coming into the recording. The session is being recorded, so you might not want your face on that either. Post any questions and comments in the chat window. Janie's going to be monitoring that while I'm chatting, and vice versa. When she's chatting, I'll be monitoring it. So by all means, post any questions you have, and I'll be checking in with Janie, and we'll be feeding back. The chat will be facilitated by her. I'd just like to remind you that you can turn on live captions to this. I don't know quite how nicely my voice will be translated, but you can choose the language in the live captions as well. So it is Scottish. I am speaking English just in case my accent's too heavy. Anyway, Janie, can we move on to the next slide? So just to tell you what we're going to be sharing with you today, the overview of our session is very much around our STEMS grants programme, which you may or may not already know about. STEMS, we're now in round 3 of the STEMS grants programme, and it's been very successful. It's very much focused around professional learning for practitioners. The impact of the programme, what we're going to be sharing with you today is we've got some of our grantees who have taken part in previous rounds. We've got Sunflower Family Nurture Centre from Fife, we've got the Royal Highland Education Trust, Aberdeenshire CLD, and Abercorn Secondary in Glasgow. After that, we're going to talk to you a little bit about what the STEM grants are funding this year, and we'll have time for questions. We're hoping that this funding is part of the STEM strategy, and we're hoping it'll continue, but we don't know. We don't know for sure, but we definitely are into round 3 and it's going ahead. Janie, could I have the next slide, please? So the Enhancing Professional Learning and STEM grants, as I said to you, is that we're now on round 3 of this. There you'll see some links, which I think Janie's going to pop into the chat for you as well. We've got case studies from round 1 and round 2 that you might want to look up yourselves and come back to later about the sorts of things that have already been funded, and it's found on our, we also have on our online resource some practice from our STEM Nation Award people as well. So the funding stream is 2 streams. There's a regional and national stream and a leadership and collegiate stream. So we have national programmes running as well as more localised programmes, perhaps in clusters or in a couple of schools working together. And the people applied for this in May, and they were awarded their funding by the end of June. So it tends to run through the financial year, April to April. So if you're thinking that you might want to apply for a grant, should that opportunity arise again next year, then you might want to have a look into some of those case studies and see the sort of things that have been running and the sort of things that people have actually already carried out grants on. You may find there's somebody in your region who carried out some professional learning for people in your region, and you might want to touch base with them to find out what they did and how they can share that learning with yourself. If I can just remind anybody to mute their microphone if they're just joining, and turn off their cameras, because that tends to preserve our bandwidth a little bit better. Janie, is there anything you want to add to that before I hand over to Morag and Shirley?
Nope, that sounds absolutely grand. I'm just saying this will be available afterwards, the materials as well.
Sure. Okay, Morag, I'm going to hand over to you. Morag Steele is from Sunflower Nursery, and she took part in our second round of grants, and she also took part in a STEM Nation Award. So absolutely shining example of STEM in action from Sunflower.
Thanks, Lynn. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So we have got between 5 and 7 minutes, so we're just going to go for it. We could talk about STEM all day and all night, but we're just going to go for it and try and give you the key points of our journey in the last couple of years. So we would firstly start by saying that STEM is absolutely embedded in the life of our setting. So Sunflower Family Nurture Centre is a standalone centre in the middle of Fife. And we have found over the years that having STEM embedded has really supported our children in their learning and their progress. So that is from our youngest babies who attend our family groups with us, to our older children who are transitioning into primary one. STEM is very much at the heart of everything that we do. We've been really fortunate to have been benefited from the STEM Grants Awards in the last 2 sessions. So I just thought we'd first of all just talk you through quite quickly what that has looked like. So in year 1, 2019-2020, our STEM grant was really used to support our staff and staff in the locality area, so in our school nurseries across the area, to basically to upskill STEM thinking and also to boost confidence in this area. We're very, very clear that in order to deliver high quality outcomes for children, that we need practitioners who are feeling really confident about what they do. And so that really was our primary aim. So we had 3 STEM champions at Sunflower who more than willingly came forward and said that they would love to be part of the project. And so very, very quickly we came up with a plan. So the plan was twofold. The first part of that was to ensure that all staff that were working out of Sunflower were supported to develop their STEM skills. And then the wider part of the plan was to support our locality nurseries in the area to upskill their staff as well. So in the first year, we set about doing this in a number of ways. We had, for example, we had twilight sessions. You're quite, we did do professional learning in that manner. But the part for us that was really the most impactful was when our STEM champions got out into the settings and supported staff on the shop floor. What we know with little ones between the ages of 2 and 5 is that they don't stand still for anyone. They won't wait until you go and get your manual out and look up how to do something. They won't wait until you go and find the correct resource. So for us, it was all about being ready and being ready to take forward the next steps as and when required. So for example, if a child wanted to make a petrol pump for the garden, they needed to do it that day. They didn't want to wait a week. And so that was really a clear aim for us, was to make sure that staff were confident and skilled and able to do that. So the champions went out and they worked in the local nurseries and they worked alongside. And certainly the feedback that we got back from that was very, very positive, that practitioners had really appreciated having somebody there at that moment when they had to make the call about what actually was the next step going to be. And we used our grant to support the staffing within Sunflower to allow us to have our champions out in the area, basically, and that worked really, really well. Year 2, so I should say that we finished that year off with an exchange programme as well that allowed practitioners to go in and out of each other's settings and to see what's going on, because obviously looking outward, that was what we were trying to do as well, to allow practitioners time and to be on the floor working with other people within the area. So that was also really positive. Year 2, 2020-21, obviously COVID hit, and suddenly we thought, oh my goodness, this is going to just completely wreck all our plans. And so we sat down and we really thought long and hard about what we were going to do, and we decided to just steam ahead with the plans and go for it. So we had to change really our plans around that. The original plan had been that our STEM champions, and that team was growing, so we had more STEM champions this time, would go out and support the nurseries, but also start to take that STEM into primary 1, because what we knew around progression was that we wanted those really excellent experiences to continue when children moved into that primary 1 classroom. So we did continue this, but we scaled it down a little bit and we used one school. However, what we found was, instead of having our champions able to go in, for example, for half a day, we had to let them go for a day, for 2 days, for 3 days at a time. Because of COVID guidance and regulations, it meant that we had to do things very differently. However, we did get through that year, and we had a collaborative Christmas project that was a primary 1 class and our Sunflower Family Nurture Centre worked together to produce some wonderful woodwork. Trying to think of the right word for it. It was just fantastic. So, for example, woodwork, wooden Christmas trees, and all manner of gifts that they then put together in an enterprise project, and they sold in our online Christmas fair. So that was a collaborative project between ourselves and that primary 1 class. In that project, huge amount of learning for the staff within primary 1, for the rest of the school, and also for our team continued to learn through that project. So very much about increasing confidence of staff and supporting our children as we went to increase and support them in their STEM skills. So just moving into alongside the STEM grants programme, we've also worked on our STEM Nation Award, and just a really kind of quick overview of that. The STEM Nation Award really supported us to really get into the nitty-gritty of our self-evaluation and really consider our self-evaluation, what our next steps were going to be. We achieved all 5 elements of the STEM Nation Award as part of the pilot cohort, and really found that experience invaluable. So the leadership in STEM, for us, it's about leadership at all levels in Sunflower. Every single member of staff has got a leadership role, as well as the children and the parents, and everybody works together to kind of reach that common aim. STEM family learning. There was a strong focus on family learning through our groups such as STEM and Communicate. This was a group that supported families to develop key communication skills, whilst also engaging with their children on STEM learning activities. And that wee photo there at the bottom is our weekly Melbourne market. Again, just really briefly, but it supported the STEM learning of children in the home. So every week children go home with a STEM bag, and we set up a little shop so that they can also look at financial education with our links with the credit union. Obviously, through all of this, we've supported our families, and we've been in regular consultation with our parents through parent forums and questionnaires as well. STEM partnership working, we've worked with local construction firms, we've got various businesses within the area that support us in our STEM work, and there you can see a lovely photograph of our intergenerational work with the local care home, where we built a outdoor seating area made out of pallets, and the residents worked really closely with the children on that. So I'm just going to pass over to Shirley now. Shirley is one of our STEM champions, who is going to just give you a little insight into some of the work that we do day to day on the floor. So over to Shirley.
Thanks, Morag. Can you have the next slide, please? Most of the resources in our garden are actually made by the staff and the children. And the top left-hand picture here, there's a puppet theatre. And a great way of building relationships with parents is getting them in and using their STEM skills with us. So a parent came in with their child, and staff supported that parent to build the puppet theatre with a little bit of support from the STEM champions. And you can see the result is amazing. The children love it. They use it daily. Puppets and puppet spoons as well. The picture next to that is a block of flats. Now, if anyone's been to Lochgelly, there's quite a lot of flats in Lochgelly. And children had a discussion with the staff that, you know, your normal doll's playhouse doesn't look like their house. So we had a discussion about, you know, what does your house look like? Where do you live? And we had a little tally chart as to some people live in flats. We have people who live in caravans, who live in bungalows, all types of stuff like that. So we started off with the children designed the flats, and from that they're now designing furniture. They've made beds, they've made little couches, they've made their own little people from pegs and stones and pebbles and things. It has been such a great learning experience for them. It's, you know, they play with it daily, and the things that they use it for. I mean, one child, her parent is pregnant, So one day it was changed into a hospital. So it has, you know, many opportunities. It's brilliant. Morag, back to you.
Thanks, Shirley. And really, just to finish up, it's just to say that, you know, equity and equality in STEM is absolutely at the heart of what we do. And we want all children to be involved in STEM experiences throughout their time with us at Sunflower. And certainly, we do feel that they're getting a really good experience in STEM. And certainly, I suppose, to finish off, the staff just love it. They absolutely love it and are so enthusiastic to be involved in it. And that's us. So back over to you, Lynn.
Thanks, Morag. Thanks, Shirley. I've put the link into the chat for the STEM Through the Eyes of the Child, because I'm sure, having just listened to Morag and Shirley, you will have been inspired about what goes on with the early years in STEM. And if you're having a bad day, even, it doesn't even have to have anything to do with STEM. If you're having a bad day, have a wee look at that video and you'll leave it with a wee smile on your face. So that link's in the chat. I just thank Morag and Shirley again. Janie, were there any direct questions there, or can I move on to Sarah?
No direct questions, just lots of lovely comments that I think Morag and Shirley should have a look at, just saying about how wonderful what they're saying there, about how everyone can do STEM, just in a bit of encouragement and some confidence.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Sarah from the Royal Highland Education Trust, who were also one of our grantees, and I was very fortunate to be able to attend a couple of their webinars, which were just fabulous. The different content that was in there was something for everybody. So I'm going to hand over to Sarah now, and you can tell us a bit about your grant. Sarah.
Fantastic, thanks Lynn, and thanks Morag. Your grant was really different from mine, as you're about to discover, but I guess that's the thing about STEM, everybody's grant is slightly different. So I've been involved with a programme called Good Food Champions, and it's not just RET, this was a partnership project, so we also had FDF, which is Food and Drink Federation of Scotland, and QMS, which is Quality Meat Scotland. Now, we've been working together for a number of years under the Good Food Champions banner, and the STEM grant really enabled us to expand the work that we're delivering. So Good Food Champions is basically for secondary practitioners, and it's a means of upskilling so that they can inform their pupils or cascade the information that they learn directly into the classroom. Now, the grant enabled us to really raise our profile. So we had funding for 2 years to deliver the Good Food Champions programme. We were lucky in that we already had partnerships set up. However, the programme has really enabled us to expand our partnerships. So although we've still got the key 3 organisations working on what we're delivering, we've also engaged with a number of universities across Scotland. So Abertay, and a number of other universities have come on board, as have other organisations, for example, James Hutton and Lantra, who are helping to support what we deliver as well. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to set up a one-stop shop for secondary practitioners to learn about food. And food obviously links really closely into STEM, as well as sustainability, which are both really topical at the moment. So year 1 of the grant was all about delivering webinars face-to-face. So we identified a number of areas in Scotland where we thought it would be a good idea to offer this to secondary school teachers. We organised events, and part of organising these events is it's not just an event in a school, it's the opportunity for the teacher to actually come out and get some hands-on industry experience. So this worked really well. We got quite a number of practitioners coming out, learning what actually happens and asking questions to the producers and the industry on the ground. So one example of this, for example, we organised a session to a distillery whereby the secondary teachers could come, they could see how the whole process worked, and we could link it directly into STEM and sustainability. And obviously this worked perfectly well until COVID hit. And then in year 2, we had to change our practices. So what we did is we had to go right back to the drawing board because we couldn't really deliver what we were wanting to in schools anymore. So we decided to go online with what we were delivering. Now, I have to say it was a particularly steep learning curve because we had never delivered any online training before. But year 2 involved using the funding to set up an online training portal. So we did this, we called it Food, STEM and Sustainability, and it's set up, secondary school teachers can register for access, and then when you get in, all the resources that you need are there. We decided that we would break it down into the different STEM areas. So we have an area for science, an area for technology, and an area for maths. And this actually makes it slightly easier for teachers to navigate and find the particular area which is most suitable to them. So we set up this online zone, and to sit alongside the zone, we decided that we would like to try and deliver some online webinars. Now, because we managed to set up new partnerships, what we were wanting to do is use these new partners to help us deliver the webinars. So the thing about the partners, we're not experts in our field, but we know a lot of people who are. So we looked at the different topics that we were covering, and we decided to do webinars on the different topic areas. So for example, we delivered a food and maths webinar, which was really well attended, and off the back of that has led on to new things as well. So the good thing about going online is you attract new audiences, which we would never have been able to reach if we'd continued to deliver face-to-face, which we had been doing. So we're averaging around about 30 to 40 participants per webinar, which is fantastic. And again, that was slightly higher than we'd anticipated for the face-to-face events. So the stats are down there in the corner over the 2 years. So we had 94 practitioners attending face-to-face training. We had a lot of online registrations, a lot of people coming to webinars. And these industry visits, which we're hoping to go back to at some point, were really popular because they enabled people to actually get inside places where they might not otherwise be able to get inside. So all in all, it's been a really enjoyable experience. It's set us up really well. We're now in a really good position to move forward and hopefully help engage teachers who haven't engaged so far. So it's not the end of the story by any means. We are continuing, and we also have really good DYW links. So STEM, health and sustainability are obviously growing sectors, and we need to try and make sure that we're getting young people who have an interest in the industry. So throughout this, there's a DYW thread to try and make sure that we highlight not just the jobs available, but also the equity and trying to ensure that people can see that the jobs in the sector are for anybody, because up until relatively recently, the food sector has maybe been seen as a destination for the less able. But in fact, there are so many opportunities now. You've got opportunities at all levels, and we're trying to highlight that when we go through as well. Could I have the next slide, please? Good Food Champions is really all about the learners. Up here we've got a picture of Heather. She was the first teacher to achieve online certification, so we were really excited about that because obviously that demonstrates that our platform is working, and from going off a baseline of 0 and knowing nothing about how to deliver online training, we've actually managed to get teachers come through, and they're still coming through completing the different modules. So the feedback that we're getting from teachers about the online platform that we've got is great. It's still open for anybody to get engaged with, and we're building on it all the time as well, adding new resources and materials to keep it as fresh as possible. So that's a real whistle-stop tour of what we've done with Good Food Champions. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to ask. And back to you, Lynn.
Actually, I'm just going to pop in there because I spotted a question in the chat, Lynn, which you'd spotted as well, just asking you, Sarah, about the online platform that you used. Was it one you created for the project, or was it a commercial one you selected?
We actually use SharePoint, Dorothy, to pull together the platform because it's easily accessible if you've got Office 365.
Okay, so that's actually really good as well for any practitioners that are here through Glow. You can access Office 365 and can use SharePoint as well to develop things for your learners. So I'm sure a lot of you have been using it over the last 18 months in particular. Okay, we're going to, I'm just going to introduce the next speakers now. So we have with us Sue, Avril and Costas, who together were unlocking STEM in CLD. I will hand over to Sue.
Thanks, Janie. Thanks for that. My name's Sue Briggs and I'm a Strategic Development Officer with the Community Learning and Development Service in Aberdeenshire Council, so within Education and Children's Services. In recent times, we were already looking at building stronger links with our neighbours in Aberdeen City across both CLD functions in both authorities. So the round one funding for PL and STEM really presented us with a great opportunity to build some kind of collective working. So what we did was we bid for funding, we got the funding, we built a project team, and important to us was to have a project team to take forward this important agenda that reflected management and practitioners. So our small project team had managers and practitioners in community learning and development from both authorities. And really importantly, we also engaged and built a relationship with the Aberdeen Science Centre, which had really been underdeveloped before. So Costas, who's going to speak in a moment, he joined us, and I think that's been a really productive and important relationship in this whole project. I think it's been beneficial on both sides. I think Costas has discovered a lot about community learning and development, which is relevant to his role, and we have absolutely loved working with him in both our teams in the two local authorities. But the key thing I wanted to draw your attention to here was the logo. So I think this has been really important to us because the minute we set on this whole notion of unlocking STEM in CLD practice, it really helped us focus in on the purposes of the project. And I think we were recognising in our project team that STEM was alive within CLD practice, but it was often unrecognised, largely not built upon, underutilised, and that really what we needed to do was set to and use this whole notion of unlocking STEM in CLD practice to invigorate the sector. So that was our kind of building block almost and platform to move on from. So can I have the next slide, Janie? So here we've tried to capture a little bit some of the key elements whilst we've had 2 successive awards from Education Scotland. So the first one is the one I've just related to, which was the building of a project team reflecting partner collaboration. And that has been really hugely instrumental in the development both within our 2 authority areas and beyond, which I think will become clear as we go on. So Costas, I think you were going to talk to a couple of bullet points.
Thank you so much, Sue. Hello, everyone. I'm Costas. I'm the Head of Education and Learning at Aberdeen Science Centre. And as Sue said, in order to unlock STEM and CLD and to raise practitioners' confidence when engaging with STEM, we chose certain criteria in order to make the activities. So the activities needed to be hands-on, they needed to be fun, and they could be done with resources that were cheap and easily accessible. Activities should also spark curiosity to a wide variety of learners. For example, learners in different learning stages with different interests and from different educational backgrounds. In order to make these activities accessible to CLD practitioners, we shared everything they needed to know about each activity. So, for example, equipment, consumable costs, suppliers, and exemplar risk assessments. So each of the activities was ready to go from the word go. Moreover, a very important part of our message was tackling barriers to participation. So, for example, challenging gender bias or biases towards science, technology, engineering, and maths. Instrumental to this was the information we got from Education Scotland through their Improving Gender Balance and Equalities program. And in order to make our message relevant and relatable to CLD practitioners and their learners, we based all our resources around improving learners' science capital. And I think this takes me to the next slide, if that's okay, Janie, and to our fabulous Avril.
Hi folks, my name's Avril Morrison and I'm with Aberdeenshire Council and I was also involved in the STEM and CLD project. And so following on from what Kostas has said, originally we started out doing face-to-face sessions with learners and with other practitioners. And as the last speaker, Sarah, said, we were unable to continue that due to the COVID-19 lockdown restrictions. So we moved our work online. And we made use of the Udemy platform because we wanted the work to be available to people who were not in mainstream education. So if community workers were working with learners who didn't have access to Glow or SharePoint, for example, they would still be able to access our course. So it's available on Udemy, and all of the resources are there, the practical activities, the costings, the materials, risk assessments, etc. are all there, along with some specially designed videos that explain the science to a non-specialist audience. So if you wanted to use these materials in your own setting, but you're working with folk who aren't science specialists, they would be able to watch a short video, and it is short, they're about 5 to 7 minutes long, explaining a little bit of the science, the background behind each of the demonstrations that we developed for this project.
Okay, can I come back in there a minute, Janie, and just, can we go back up to slide 2, 1 minute, please? Thanks, because I really wanted to draw attention there to the case studies. We built a set of case studies as practitioners who were developing their skills and knowledge applied their learning in various settings. So we had some really super family learning settings, for instance, where we were able to use the learning in a number of locations across the city and the Shire and the Northeast, and build in some important feedback for us from participants and from families and participants and from our staff themselves, but the experience of delivering through this kind of STEM agenda. So the set of case studies are currently available. I think Avril put the link into the chat. And they're interesting. I would suggest you might want to have a look at them because they're really quite informal, but very varied. And they show how we've used the whole STEM notion within our work and explored a variety of practical things. So I think that's really important for us to know. As you know, the tangibles are often important. So the case studies have been very valuable to us in terms of hooking in other people into recognizing the importance of this agenda to their practice. So I just wanted to mention also the Udemy program that Avril just mentioned, that is obviously it's on the internet. It's reached over 1,500 participants at the moment. Avril, do you want to say something about the geography of that, the outrageous geography of that? Avril,
okay. Hi, sorry. Yes, originally we just wanted the resources to be shared between the partners in Aberdeen City and Aberdeenshire. And the Udemy platform is actually international. I'd seen Dyslexia Scotland had actually released an online course using Udemy. So it looked like a good resource for making resources available nationally, across Scotland. But what's turned out, like as Sue said, we've had over 1,500 participants, and a lot have been an international audience. We've had a lot of participants in India and in Southern America. So it has been quite fascinating to see see how wide our reach has been and how many people are interested in community learning globally. So that was very unanticipated outcome of the project. Originally, our aims were very modest, just to reach practitioners across Aberdeen City and Shire, but obviously, as time has gone on, we've attracted participants globally.
Thanks, Avril, that's great. While we've got Ian Menzies on the call, maybe we should be looking at a study visit, Janie. What do you think? A study visit to India and South America? Anyway, okay, I just want to see if we can just look at this one paragraph at the bottom. I think it's really important to us that I think this in a nutshell captures really what we feel we've been up to. We think we've raised awareness of STEM for CLD practitioners, which is very important to us. We've shared knowledge, skills and resources across quite a big geography. We've built confidence for participants, and we've also stimulated some really quite high quality delivery through exposure to innovative learning. So we feel the grant's been well spent. And Janie, can I just look at the very final slide? The next one, I think it is. Yeah, great, thanks. Okay, so we've been on quite an incredible journey, and we've worked hard together as a project team, and we now have been successful in round 3. So what we want to do is extend the learning and resources across the region. We're now very active in the regional collaborative, the Northern Alliance. You can see the dark blue colour is the geography that's covered by that regional collaborative. We're very active with our CLD counterparts in the 8 authorities in that collaborative, and our intention is to spread the resources more effectively, which the pandemic got a bit in the way of. And we also want to use the funding in order to tackle some challenging questions through STEM. So Kostas, I think you were going to say a final word about what we're going to do with our next award.
Absolutely, thank you so much, Sue. So our participation in phase 3 would be 3-pronged. Firstly, we intend to use our networks with the Northern Alliance to share our learning to date and hopefully some good practice tips that we picked up along the way. Secondly, now that our interdisciplinary team is well established, we are going to use our skills and the insights for what has worked and what has not worked for our learners to co-develop additional resources. Given the last year, the resources will be focused on mental health, together with practical examples of how to maintain or even improve good mental health through activities like exercising, socializing, and healthy eating. And thirdly, we would like to ensure that our resources will keep tackling barriers to participation. And we want to give our learners the tools to address challenging questions through STEM. We firmly believe that it is through this process that our learners will be empowered to make the greener, smarter, more responsible choices for themselves, but also for their communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to the team. And I'm just going to say thank you, and we're just going to keep questions towards the end now so that we can get a little bit of time to hear from Judith, who's been waiting patiently in the wings.
Hi there, hi. I'm Judith Bennett. I work at Abercorn School. I'm a business studies teacher, and very quickly, back in 2018, I was having thoughts about trying to do some collaborative work to do with outdoor learning with other ASN schools. So I made a few phone calls, and then shortly after that, the STEM grant became available. So I then phoned the schools back and said, you know, we could get funding to do this and really push it forward. So our focus was outdoor learning with STEM involved in that. And we did a lot of skill building for staff, a lot of confidence building about delivering STEM across all subjects that you would get within primary and secondary, across all subjects, to show that outdoor learning is suitable for anyone and everyone. Then when the pandemic hit, we'd already started thinking about doing something online. And my colleague Lisa and Kilpatrick had been looking at that within her own science classroom. So she's a science teacher, she's on with the glasses, and you can see on the screen. And so we thought, right, okay, this is the way forward, because all our meetings then had to be online as well. So through the second lockdown, sort of sort of mid-October through to the end of the second lockdown, we basically met online twice a week for quite a substantial amount of time, working through our slides. And you can see there that we've got STEM and a wee sort of outdoor classroom window. So these are my colleagues who I worked with, Lisa and Sharon, who's at the other far corner, and then Albert. They worked at Kilpatrick, and then I've got Lindsay and a couple of the other teachers helped out at Merkland. So we're all in different council areas, and I actually thought that was a really good way to maybe try and support ASN schools who maybe weren't as heavily supported as a Glasgow school, like Abercorn School is within Glasgow. So if we could go to the next slide, I'm trying to be really quick. So this was created on Google Slides. So it's actually very easy to work, and it's actually very easy to develop your own ideas and put it onto Google Slides and to share it. But you'll see that every item that's on your screen leads you to a link that allows you to find out a wee bit more about that topic, or how to actually carry out a lesson or a challenge. So the whole point of this was to ensure that teaching staff who have never, they might not have a STEM subject as a background, so this is available for primary, ASN, everyone, that all practitioners would have a go-to place as a starting point. I was lucky enough, when I first started at my STEM journey, that I could ask the science teacher, I could ask the maths teacher, but within, ASN in primary, sometimes you don't always have the expertise that you would like. So we thought putting these slides together within the subject headings meant that we would give teachers who've been given the remit of, right, you need to develop STEM in your classroom, and that's not their forte, how to do so. And the slides give you lots of ideas. If you could move to the next slide, please. Thank you. This is the technology slide. So Lindsay and myself, business studies teachers, so we took on the technology side, and it leads you to websites of companies that have challenges and ideas and resources as well. Also, it takes you to ideas for different types of technology that your school could invest in. Like there's the 3D pen, which I think is amazing, and it's brilliant for encouraging your skills of your hand use. Also, there was just like basic things like BBC iPlayer have something called Click Technology Show, which is amazing, which is something that I've always shown to some of my year groups. You have to be quite selective because some of the programmes might have topics that are not always suitable for young people, but generally it's all about advancements in technology, and it's fascinating. And I do encourage you, actually, if you're interested in technology, it's a fantastic show. But there was links to everything that we would look at in technologies, E's and O's. Can I have the next slide, please? Brilliant. Albert was our engineering genius. He actually was an engineer in a previous life, and then he went to work in Kilpatrick for a while. So he actually has links with Fastlane and things like that. So he has really, really amazing ideas. And again, this is a starting off point for teachers who have no experience. They could just be straight into a new role, and this just gives you ideas and points. So we talk about how food and technology are interacted. There's a few links there to do with that. A wee bit like Zara said, she's fantastic. We've used her in the school as well. So we're trying to develop that side a wee bit more. Can I just go on to the next slide, please? This is the maths. This is Sharon. So she's the maths teacher at Kilpatrick, and she has got amazing resources on here, again, for all levels and abilities. Really engaging, really interesting. And again, you can select anything on that screen. And finally, can I just go on to the last one? I'm just conscious of the time. And this is our outdoor learning page. So this is where we kind of already started off with, and you'll see in the very background is David, who is a PE teacher in Abercorn. and he was really passionate about, you know, he started the journey with me from Abercorn, and he was really passionate about keeping the outdoor learning within it, and I think it's very relevant because it integrates all types of STEM. We've actually, from this point forward, we have outdoor learning as our designated subject within our school now, because our staff have gained confidence and are able to run it from all different subject areas. And finally, last thing, because I know time's short, we are going to add a sustainability page to this as well, because sustainability obviously is the big topic with COP26. But all the teachers, we all work fantastically well. We're all staying in contact. It's been an amazing experience, and we're just learning so much as we go along. And there's a link for all these slides. They're all interactive and they're free and available for anyone. So please let me know. I can, if you want to give my details, Janie or Lynn, whatever, I don't mind. Or if you've got the link, I think Janie, I sent it to you. Feel free to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. And Lynn's actually popped the link already into the chat, and there's been lots of fabulous comments about this resource. It's so engaging to look at. It's fabulous. Can I just say thank you so much to everybody that has come along today to present at these sessions. It's been an amazing whistle-stop tour of 4 fantastic and very different STEM grant programmes. We obviously have overrun very slightly, but I'm just going to put a little link up just now just to let you know this is what we're this year. We've got 84 STEM grants currently going on that have been granted round 3 funding, and you can see that they're kind of divided into some that are leadership and collegiate in a similar way to Judith was talking about, and some more sort of regional and national partner, similar to what Rhett were talking about earlier. Lots of different themes going on there, but just to let you know that all of this information is freely available to you to find out more about any of these STEM grants if you go to our summary of STEM resources on the National Improvement Hub, and Lynn's going to pop that into the chat for you there just now. So last thing from me really is just think about it for yourself. If you could design your own STEM professional learning programme to meet your needs, what would it look like? And hopefully at some point you might hear from us with a round 4 of funding. Thank you very much for joining us today. If anyone's got any questions, we'll hang on for a little bit. All the links are in the chat already, but if there's anything that you'd like to come in with, please do feel free to pop up your hand or pop something into the chat just now.
Everybody, just thanking everybody who came along and presented, and I just want to reiterate that I'm blown away by the ones I hadn't seen before, impressed again by the ones I had seen, but I think everybody who's been at the session has thoroughly enjoyed the 4 different offers that we've just highlighted today, and everyone just saying thanks very much. And yeah, I'd just like to say that again to all 4 participants. Thank you so much for coming along. Mr. Hurley, you get the gold star, the best workshop yet today. Well, I'm going to let you have that, because I would agree those 4 presenters, the stuff they have presented us with has just been inspiring.
Katrina, you've got your hand up. Would you like to come in with a question?
Oh, it was maybe a wee mistaken hand. Maybe you meant to do something else.
A wee legacy hand there, or a wee mistaken hand?
I saw a wee clap appear on the screen, but I still can't figure it. Oh yes, I can see. I'm going to put a wee clap up as well, because I quite like that. Just everybody saying how lovely it was to hear of the range of things. And I think that's what's important to remember, is that the STEM grants have been given out to a very, very wide range of subject areas and materials across STEM and different sectors, and that's the full aim of it, is we're trying to do that. We're trying to make sure that there is that professional learning for everybody in every sector. So yeah, hopefully that's inspired a couple of you to think about what you would like to do. Oh, Dorothy's got a question. Would love to hear a bit more about how to do this with Google Slides. I might just refer you to our digital team with that, Dorothy. There are lots of, I don't know if Janie, if you can find this while I'm talking, our DigiLearn colleagues, their site has a whole lot of videos on it about how to create these sort of things, how to create thing links, Google Slides, webinars. They spent a lot of time during lockdown creating a whole series of online webinars and videos that you can click into and use. So that's on the DigiLearn site. Have you got it, Jenny?
Yep,
There you
that
go.
into the chat for you.
So I would send you to there. That's our Education Scotland colleagues in technologies and digital learning, and they have a host of resources on there. There's even stuff on Microsoft as well. I'm sure there's stuff there about SharePoint, but I do know there's stuff about Google Slides and links in there. So hopefully that'll be of some use to you, Dorothy. Any other questions from anybody else? I see our numbers are decreasing, so people are obviously jumping off.
Other sessions to go to. Yep. Okay, thank you very much for coming, folks.
Yeah, thank you.